6.
A stunning new lead tonight in the investigation of TWA Flight 800. Explosives had been put aboard the aircraft for a training mission just weeks before the plane blew up. In the Unabomber case, prosecutors reveal what they say is key incriminating evidence found in this cabin, including, they say, Ted Kaczynski's tell-all diary. Atlanta bombing suspect Richard Jewell, angry and now ready to sue. Tonight, a preview of his first exclusive interview with 60 Minutes main man Mike Wallace.
Have you ever seen an FBI investigation this public before? I can't remember ever seeing one.
And Eye on America. Tonight, the Condors, coming home to roost. But how do you get rid of them?
This is the CBS Evening News. With Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. The investigation of the TWA Flight 800 crash has taken a dramatic turn this afternoon. Investigators may have determined how traces of chemicals that pointed to a possible bomb got on board the 747. The source was not a terrorist. It may have been the U.S. government. Correspondent Bob Orr, who's been following this case since the start, got the story today and now has details. Bob?
Dan, incredibly, investigators a short time ago revealed that the jet involved in the crash of TWA Flight 800 was deliberately contaminated with explosive residue just weeks before that crash in a security test for bomb-sniffing dogs. Sources say the startling revelation at least calls into question and may completely negate what until now has been the strongest physical evidence of an explosive device causing the crash. Investigators previously have reported finding traces of the plastic explosive compounds RDX and PETN on 2 bits of the wreckage. RDX and PETN are the key components used in Semtex, the explosive that brought down Pan Am 103. But now investigators say the chemical traces may in fact have been left behind after the routine security test in June for bomb detection dogs. A statement just released by the FBI says, quote, test packages containing explosive chemicals were placed aboard the aircraft, which could possibly relate to the trace residues previously identified. Now, according to the FBI, those test packages were removed from the plane after that security test, and we have to point out we have no confirmation that the residues used in the test were actually RDX and PETN. But in any case, this does not help the theory that a bomb or a missile brought down the jet, and in fact, it may force investigators now to push harder on the mechanical failure theory. Dan?
Bob, the crash investigation has been going on for nearly 2 months. How could the FBI just now be finding out about this?
Well, it boggles the mind. We're told that the FAA turned over all the relevant papers to the investigators some time ago. Investigators say they were not aware of it until just a short time ago. And TWA just moments ago told us it knew nothing of this and has launched its own investigation. Dan?
Bob Orr in Washington, thanks. Now, these developments raise many questions. Among them, what did the FAA know and when? What did TWA know about the explosive traces and when? What did the FBI know and why did it take so long to find it out? The U.S. government today revealed evidence it calls the backbone of its case against the accused Unabomber. And the government says it confirms an exclusive report on this broadcast from 60 Minutes producer Lowell Bergman. While investigators were carefully documenting each of the bombings, so apparently was Ted Kaczynski. Correspondent Bill Whitaker is covering the Unabomber case.
Federal prosecutors have claimed all along they have an overwhelming case against Theodore Kaczynski. And today, in a Sacramento courtroom with Kaczynski not in attendance, they revealed one more reason for their confidence. In a handwritten diary retrieved from his mountain cabin, they said Kaczynski admits to 16 Unabombings, with such entries as, "I mailed that bomb," and "I sent that bomb." Court observers say such incriminating evidence leaves the defense few options.
I think it could well be several nails in the coffin. While I believe there might be ways to explain it, I think I'd probably rather be sitting in the prosecution's shoes right now.
Defense attorneys say the evidence may appear overwhelming, but their case is far from over.
This, as I tried to explain, is the biggest case that ever hit this district. We're working as best we can with the resources we have to get on top of it.
Kaczynski's attorneys could move to have the evidence excluded, claiming illegal search and seizure. Failing that, they could try an insanity defense. FBI sources have told 60 Minutes Kaczynski's own documents prove the bombings were premeditated, that he knew the difference between right and wrong, that he was not legally insane. In their recent 60 Minutes interview, Kaczynski's mother and brother said if he is in fact the Unabomber, these were not the acts of a sane man.
It's an attempt to change the course of human history by sending bombs in packages to people. I think he believed that he was making a difficult choice to do something good for the world. And no sane person would think that is plausible.
Kaczynski's family says his mental state is no excuse for any crimes he may have committed, but they believe it should be grounds to spare him the death penalty. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles.
A development in the investigation of the Olympic Park bombing in Atlanta. A battery that may have been used to detonate the bomb reportedly has been traced to a chain of hardware stores in Florida. The hardware chain owner says the FBI traced the 12-volt battery, a type used in lanterns, by its lot number. Security guard Richard Jewell remains the only citizen actually named as a, quote, suspect in the Olympic bombing. But after nearly 2 months, he still has not been charged with anything, much less indicted or convicted. So he's now demanding an apology from the government and says he's ready to sue. Jewell speaks out for the first time in an exclusive interview with Mike Wallace to be broadcast Sunday on 60 Minutes. Mike is here with us tonight with part of his interview. Mike?
Dan, the story of Richard Jewell has changed many times since that bomb blew up in Centennial Park. First, he was called a hero. Then he was called a villain as he emerged as a suspect in the bombing. But Jewell has not changed his story at all. He insists that he is innocent.
I met Richard Jewell earlier this week in Atlanta. It's the first time he has talked to a reporter since he was fingered as a suspect in the bombing, and he told me he is ready to go after the people who fingered him.
Who are you going to sue?
We, myself and my attorneys, are looking at everyone and anyone who has said libelous things, who have done things to me and my mother.
At the top of his list is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
The Atlanta Journal was the first to report that you were a suspect. But not only that, they said that you fit the profile of a lone bomber.
It's all a lie. Whatever will sell or keep the story in the news is what they've been saying.
Jewell's lawyers also say they're preparing to sue Tom Brokaw of NBC News for a report he did on Jewell. And they may also seek damages from the FBI.
Have you ever seen an FBI investigation this public before? I can't remember ever seeing one. Ever.
Dan, the FBI refused to talk to us about Richard Jewell. They refused to comment when I asked them if Jewell was or still is a suspect. But Jewell said, and his mother, they say the FBI and the media have turned their life into a living nightmare. And it is.
Mike, we look forward to the full interview Sunday on 60 Minutes. Thanks for being with us tonight. Straight ahead now, organ and tissue transplants from animals to humans. The U.S. government issues guidelines for what is and isn't allowed. Also, the Clinton and Dole campaigns escalate the living room war, with television ads accusing each other of surrender in the war on drugs.
Say, Bob, was that your daughter on hard copy last night?
Hey, Bob, did they ever find your gold card?
Hey, Bob, I hear your neighbor's suing you.
Bob, your computer crashed.
Hey, Bob, what about your root canal? Bummer.
Woo! Looks like stepping something, Chief.
Life gotten a little crazy? Try the simple sanity of an Accord sedan. From Honda.
Bobby said he beat you. He's such a kidder.
He wasn't kidding.
Well, maybe he just got lucky.
3 in a row.
Well, maybe we need a new game plan.
Introducing New Ensure Light. Complete balanced nutrition. #1 doctor recommended. Low in fat and only 200 calories. Helps you stay healthy, active, energetic.
I think I'm ready for another.
Another Ensure Light?
Oh, another game.
New Ensure Light. Drink to your health.
In Moscow, Boris Yeltsin's doctors admitted today the Russian president's forthcoming heart surgery will be more serious and risky than previously disclosed. That's one reason why one of this country's pioneer heart surgeons will be close at hand when Yeltsin goes under the knife. Our health correspondent, Dr. Bob Arnott, has the full story.
Today, the chief Kremlin doctor finally admitted that Boris Yeltsin's condition is far graver than had been previously reported, saying, "What will happen is a big and serious operation." American heart surgeon Dr. Michael DeBakey, who will act as a consultant, has recently only seen President Yeltsin on television.
Well, I see a person who looks exhausted to me, and I would hope that's all due to coronary disease, because if it is, you see, we can correct that.
This week, Yeltsin did appear more tired, becoming fatigued even after raising his arm. Well, his doctor said today that Yeltsin's kidneys and liver are functioning normally. They admit he does have unspecified age-related problems with other organs. Dr. DeBakey, one of the pioneers of bypass surgery, will arrive in Russia Monday and remain there up to 10 days. The operation will be performed at this hospital by Dr. Rinat Akhturin, who trained under Dr. DeBakey.
I don't think that there'll be any difficulty technically in performing the operation. You know, it's a pretty straightforward operation. And Dr. Akhturin and his team are very good at it.
Mr. Yeltsin may have to undergo triple bypass surgery. Now, if he undergoes triple bypass surgery, that carries significant risks. Although Dr. Akhturin's survival rates are 98% for otherwise healthy patients, that drops to 90% for patients who have other organ problems, as Boris Yeltsin does. And Russian patients are generally younger, healthier, and technically easier to operate on than Mr. Yeltsin. Dan?
Thanks, Doctor. Federal health officials came out today with long-awaited and controversial guidelines for the coming wave in medical transplant technology. Medical transplant technology is moving increasingly toward using animals to fill the critical shortage of organs and tissues available for transplant into humans. Jacqueline Adams has our report.
Waiting for a kidney transplant, Denise Perry has been undergoing dialysis for 6 months at the Rogosin Institute at New York Hospital. But she doubts she'd agree to an animal transplant even if one were available.
I just wouldn't feel comfortable with that. I'm just hoping for that a human cadaver would come through.
By contrast, AIDS patient Jeff Getty is glad he ignored the naysayers and underwent an experimental baboon marrow transplant last year.
Eventually, there'll be many more organ recipients who will be getting animal organs to hold them over until they can get a human organ.
While the research goes on, FDA guidelines are needed to address the real dangers of animal-to-human transplants. Unknown and potentially lethal animal viruses or bacteria which could cross over.
We do not yet know the full spectrum of infectious diseases, and that is why the guideline urges due caution.
If the risks can be managed, though, doctors say the need for animal organs and tissue is tremendous. Examples: pig cells to treat diabetes and Parkinson's disease, cow adrenal cells for pain in cancer patients, and of course, kidneys, hearts, and livers. Last month, for example, 33,000 patients did not receive kidney transplants, Denise Perry among them, because the wait for a human organ can run 2 to 3 years. That might be too long for Denise.
But if it was a choice of dying instead? Oh, forget it. Let's go with the animal.
Approximately 3,000 people die each year because donor organs are not available. Yet it could be years before animal transplants are commonplace, despite the FDA's action today. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, New York.
Now, an animal rights group had this reaction, and I quote, "There's no shortage of human organs available. They're just being buried," unquote. Coming up next, a clear warning on videotape of the terror bombing in Saudi Arabia.
Men, is gray hair sneaking up on you right under your nose?
It is sneaking up on me. Here, too.
You need Just for Men gel. Brush in, and in 5 minutes, rinse.
It's the sure thing for a natural look.
Just for Men gel.
It's a great time to be silver because you're over 50 and you haven't lost your edge. Now there's a Centrum made just for you. Centrum Silver for your changing nutritional needs. Centrum Silver. It's a great time to be silver.
It hurts so bad. That
burning sensation. I just wanted it to be over with fast. So I saw my doctor. My doctor said Mylanta. He said heartburn and acid indigestion may start in your stomach, but where it hurts is all through here. And that's where fast-acting Mylanta liquid works fast on heartburn. Soothing on contact, all down through here where you want help fast. Yeah, my doctor's pretty smart. My doctor said Mylanta.
A sparkling ship on crystal waters is coming.
Absolutely gorgeous. It was so much fun.
The perfect lobster is coming.
Our waiters, they would do anything for us, any time.
Perfection is coming.
A gift from the captain.
Memories are coming. 3 or 4 days in Royal Caribbean's Baja are coming. You've got some Royal Caribbean coming.
For the president's fans, today's visit was a dream come true. But as you'll see, getting through the day was a nightmare. For some, you'll see why at 6.
Lawyers began questioning prospective jurors today in the wrongful death civil suit against O.J. Simpson. And for the first time in this trial, Simpson himself was in the courtroom. The first prospective juror, a black man, said he thought there was a cover-up in the murder investigation, but believes he still could be impartial. The judge kept him. Earlier this week, a U.S. military commission clearly blamed top Defense Department officials and an Air Force commander for failing to heed warnings of a terrorist bombing threat in Saudi Arabia. Now, a videotape has surfaced made by a bombing victim that shows just how clear the danger was.
Whoops, might want to take off the old lens cap. Okay, here we are. It's prayer time. This is where we're staying?
Nearly 2 years ago, Captain Christopher Adams of Long Island, New York, sent his parents a videotape showing his living quarters at Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia.
Go to jail for taking this young man.
In it, he described just how vulnerable he and his buddies felt there.
Oh, this is feeling great. This is the old Khobar Towers. Perfect bombing site for anybody that wanted to waste the American presence here.
Last June 25th, this was the scene at Khobar Towers. A truck filled with explosives pulled up to the perimeter of the complex and blew up. 19 Americans were killed.
Christopher Adams, pilot extraordinaire.
One of them was Captain Christopher Adams. Today, his mother talked about her son's prophetic tape with WCBS TV in New York.
Chris died. 19 of them died. I don't want to ever hear that another American man or woman died because our government wasn't strong enough to protect our men and women wherever they are.
Captain Christopher Adams was 30 years old.
If you've been drinking Ensure, there's a little something you should know. Nobody, not even Ensure, gives you more protein with less fat than Sustacal. Now, Sustacal can't add years to your life, but it might help add life to your years.
A callus makes you feel like you're walking on stones. Introducing new Dr. Scholl's Advanced Pain Relief Callus Removers with Cushioning. They get rid of the pain by getting rid of the callus. We guarantee it. Get new Dr. Scholl's Callus Removers with Cushioning today.
Uncomfortable shoes are for dummies. Spa shoes are different. They have easy spirit cushioning and support. Spa, the shoes that let you move. New from Easy Spirit.
Now this ought to be an interesting party. I almost hope Larry shows up.
Whatever your reason for looking great.
Probably won't even notice me.
Part of getting that look should include Kellogg's Special K cereal.
Not notice this. Right.
Great toasted taste, 110 calories, and fat-free.
Eat your heart out, Larry.
Kellogg's Special K. Great taste never looked so good.
Going to kill him with kindness.
Heartburn medicines have been around for years. First came Tagamet, then Zantac, then Pepsid. but the newest Axid, now in non-prescription strength as new Axid AR. So effective, it can prevent heartburn completely. And here's the proof. We gave heartburn sufferers spicy food like this, and many told us Axid AR prevented their heartburn. Not a little, not somewhat, but completely. New Axid AR, proven it can prevent heartburn completely. Good chili.
It could be the game of the year. Two of the country's best quarterbacks, Warfel and Manning, in the head-to-head war. Florida battles Tennessee, Saturday on CBS. Just watch.
In the presidential campaign, down and dirty is the message of the day. It shows in the candidate's latest television ad. Subject, the nation's drug abuse problem. The message, if more young people are using drugs, you can blame my opponent. White House correspondent Rita Braver reports.
Out wooing voters in Oregon today, President Clinton laughed off questions about a new ad the Dole campaign has produced that reprises a 1992 interview in which Mr. Clinton joked about his college drug use.
And in front of our children on MTV, the president himself.
If you had to do it over again, would you inhale? Sure, if I could. I tried before.
Bill Clinton. He just doesn't get it.
The Dole camp says the ad is aimed at the president's drug policies. But to the Clinton campaign, it's really an assault on the president's character. Joe Lockhart is the Clinton-Gore campaign spokesman.
I'd suggest that that turn is for a reason, given the position that the Dole campaign is in, and it should be seen as a desperate act from a desperate campaign.
And as for the president's inhaling remarks?
It was a lighthearted answer to a lighthearted question on an issue the president has never taken lightly.
But the White House is taking the ad seriously enough to start running a counterattack Monday on Bob Dole's drug-busting record.
To fight drugs, all Bob Dole offers are slogans.
Just don't do it.
But look at what he's done. Voted to cut the president's school anti-drug efforts by 50%.
But the Clinton campaign has always worried that the president is vulnerable on the character issue. The Dole team will keep pounding that. The Dole campaign spokesman tonight insisting the best way to indict Bill Clinton is with his own words and deeds. Rita Braver, CBS News, with the president in Portland.
Up next, Eye on America. Whoever said you can't go home again hadn't heard about the California condor.
You can still smell the coffee brewing every morning. You can still hear kids being called to the table. And you can still taste the simple goodness of Kellogg's Corn Flakes. The best things in life never change. You gotta make it a great day.
Bobby said he beat you. He's such a kidder.
He wasn't kidding.
Well, maybe he just got lucky.
3 in a row.
Well, maybe we need a new game plan.
Introducing new Ensure Light. Complete balanced nutrition. #1 doctor recommended. Low in fat and only 200 calories. Helps you stay healthy, active, energetic.
I think I'm ready for another.
Another Ensure Light?
Oh, another game.
New Ensure Light. Drink to your health.
This is a court-ordered legal announcement. Persons who have ever had a surgical implant may be affected by the Dow Corning bankruptcy and should call 1-800-997-1700 for an information package and claim form. Even if you do not have a problem with your implant, to preserve your rights now and in the future, you must file a claim to be received by January 15, 1997. Call toll-free 1-800-997-1700.
Extraordinary things take place in this ordinary town, like Otis, reaching for that air filter. Extraordinary because of arthritis pain and the powerful heating relief he gets from Ultra Strength Ben Gay. Turn up the heat on arthritis.
Now there's a new kind of toothbrush dogs love sinking their teeth into. New Pedigree Dentabone. Its unique shape and texture helps reduce the accumulation of harmful plaque and tartar. New Pedigree Dentabone. Developed with vets. Recommended by top breeders.
In tonight's Eye on America, a situation many parents of the 90s may find familiar. You raise young ones, send them off on their own, only to have them return to the nest. As Jerry Bowen reports, that, in a way, it's what's happened with the great endangered California condor.
Tiny Pine Mountain, California is normally a tranquil place, nestled in the canyons well north of Los Angeles. It's rare anything unusual happens here. You come home, you walk in the door, and...
I screamed.
And then, 2 summers ago, the visitors dropped in, right on Buddy and Jennifer Blagg's back deck. 3 very rare, very endangered California condors. And they were just sitting?
Yes, yes.
And looking at you, you think?
And us at them.
Yes.
Normally, these mammoth birds with their 10-foot wingspans ride the winds over the remote regions of the Los Padres National Forest. So, the Blaggs were understandably stunned, but they did what all gracious hosts do.
We thought, well, they must be hungry.
So, what'd you give them?
We tried hot dogs.
Tried hot dogs.
But they didn't like hot dogs too well. They liked raw hamburger. Hamburger went over very well.
It wasn't supposed to be this way. After spending $20 million to save the condor and reintroduce it to the wild, the last thing scientists wanted, or expected for that matter, was for these prehistoric birds to start making house calls.
It's rather comical if you can keep your sense of humor about it, but actually it's a problem if we have birds behaving in a non-wild way.
Mike Wallace is director of the Condor Recovery Program at the LA Zoo, and the condor trio's drop-by at the Blaggs was more evidence it was time to teach the birds a lesson.
Eventually, someone is not going to be so kind to them, sneaking up close to get a picture. Instead, they could do damage to the birds.
The condor's problem has always been man-made, from poisons to power lines. 4 birds have died because they couldn't resist power poles. So, in captivity, birds are being taught
that if they land on it, they would get an electrical jolt. It's harmless, but it gets their attention. And to date, after a year and a half of 17 birds being free in the landscape, they've yet to land on a power pole.
And to train the curious condors that humans should be avoided, scientists launch sneak attacks on the birds during routine visits to their pens.
Not that we hurt them, but we try to psychologically give them an idea that people aren't the nicest animals to be around. We don't want to be in there yelling and screaming, because that isn't what's going to happen out in the wild. We need to, for their own good, ensure that they're well prepared for life in the wild.
He started from the beam, and then he went up on top of the roof.
Meanwhile, back in Pine Mountain, people like Lee Benavidez have been learning how to act around the condors. Good thing, too, because they're back. 6 more birds showed up this summer.
I jumped up and down, I clapped, I did everything I was taught to so he could fly away, and all he did was move his wings. Like, well, I could do the same thing.
They say scare it off. Don't try to get close to it. Don't feed it, which we didn't know about.
Don't feed hot dogs.
Especially hot dogs.
So the word is out, and maybe the condors will get it. Roadkill good, house calls bad. Getting wild is just fine. In Pine Mountain, California, this is Jerry Bowen for Eye on America.
And that's part of our world tonight. Now, here's Morley Safer with a preview of Sunday's 60 Minutes.
The man the FBI and the media led the world to believe was the Atlanta bomber tells Mike Wallace how he's going to get even with both of them, the FBI and the media. Plus the story of 2 white cops who say the only reason they were convicted of murder was to appease Detroit's black community. Sunday on 60 Minutes.
For the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather reporting. Good night, and have a great weekend.